Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com, and it is the dog days of summer. Somebody turn the thermostat down. I don't think it's going to happen. But you know what? What may happen, rolling blackouts may start to happen. And I'm not talking about Europe. I'm not talking about Germany. I'm talking right here, Texas, now issuing warnings, begging the residents of Texas not to use electricity. Everybody better hang on. And earnings season's going to be kicking off. I think tomorrow it starts, I believe, with Pepsi. Then the banks go later in the week. Get ready for a lot of downgrades. And Elon Musk says, that's it. I'm not buying Twitter. Too many fake accounts. I don't know how that works either, right? This is, I don't know. The whole new way of media, always controlled by the powers that be, and now Twitter, they can't even tell you how many fake accounts there are, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe it's dead, maybe it's not, maybe he never planned on buying it at all, but I'll say this right now, get ready. Twitter stock's already getting hammered. Now they're saying Twitter's going to go into the 20s. Jason, and again, I think a lot of stocks, this is going to be what we're going to see for the second half. A lot of the earnings that they were hoping for aren't going to materialize, and this house of the cards, it's starting to get a little shaky.
It's funny. You talk about the Elon Musk thing. I remember. I always go back to movies because a lot of this stuff seems like the movies always tell you ahead of time. But Bruce Wayne in a Batman movie, he was going into this Asian guy out of Hong Kong. He was fronting for the mafia in Gotham City, and he goes in there like he's going to do a business deal, and of course he finds out all the bad information. He didn't want to ever partner up with him. He just wanted to see everything about their organization. He just wanted to look at all of it, and that's why he entertained business with the crooks. And of course he was never going to do it. I wonder if Elon Musk is doing the same, Joe. I wonder if he just wants to see what Twitter's up to and get a lot of information and then pivot, I guess, right?
Well, it could be, right? And I think the fact of the matter is, I think the bloom is off the rose when it comes to Twitter. The too many bots and fake accounts and fake likes and fake this and fake that. I know Facebook. Zuckerberg was out last week warning about Facebook. It's going to be interesting. I think all of it's going to be interesting and how that plays out. I know that a lot of people were hoping that Musk would be the guy that saves free speech. I never thought he was going to be that guy, but other people did. But we'll wait and see. I think that if nothing else, to your point, right? They took a look, and didn't like what they saw, right? Didn't like it.
Took a look. Why do I get the feeling that all this will develop into more, loss of freedoms and loss of privacy when it comes to all this stuff? Isn't that what it seems like it's going to head towards? Yeah, we need to know more about you. All of privacy is lost here when we get the digital dollar. Any last figment of imagination of freedom is going to go away, because you're really only free if you want to, do as you're told. Then you can pretend you have freedom, right? And for those people that wanted to get masked up, for those people that wanted to get all the shots and all that stuff, then yeah, for them they feel like they have freedom. For everybody else, they're kind of realizing that it wasn't. There was rioting in China over the weekend I want to say at least 3, and I think it's actually going to be a little more than that. Chinese banks have been preventing people to get access to their money now going on. Jason, this is going on for months now. Well, is it really their money, Joe, when you live in China? Whose money is it?
And listen, this is a lesson, and I only bring it up for one. This is a lesson for all of you. Chinese banking laws are no different than English banking laws, American banking laws, German banking laws, Australian banking laws. The money's not yours. Period. Period. And I know for a lot of people, they get upset when they hear that. They want to argue about it. Oh, show me where it is. Listen, this has been banking law since like the 1500s. You are an unsecured creditor, and really all you really need to know is about Dodd-Frank. And again, you want to know how the money is in yours? Go back to the Great Depression. They shut all the banks. Half the banks never reopened again. Those people got nothing.
You know, Joe,
getting ready to do it again, Jason. And Dodd-Frank made it worse this time around. At least the last time, go back to 2008, right? They bailed them out. So you didn't have to learn the reality. You know what was so funny about it, too? Then they upped the FDIC insurance. That's always been a classic. Oh, we're going to raise it to $250,000. They don't have any money. The FDIC doesn't even have $150 billion. Just one bank. Pick one. Chase, B of A, Wells Fargo, Citi, U.S. Bank, PNC, all these. They've got trillions of dollars in deposits. It's really, Jason, it's a big scam, and I believe this wholeheartedly. The banks, the system broke before they were ready. The digital currency wasn't ready. We've been living in this inflated bubble ever since. This whole bubble's going to come crashing down, and believe me, after you get your bank accounts wiped out, don't worry, the digital dollar will save you. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Monday. And Jason, we're looking for all these different signs about where we're headed. What are we going to be looking like, 3 months from now, 6 months from now? And every single, and I want to be positive, I do, but every indicator I look at says it's not going to be a good place. Over the weekend, got a lot of data about auto loan delinquencies. So these are things that we look at. First, we look at retail sales, right? We look at durable goods. We look at payments. Are people making their payments? And obviously, right, housing being an issue. But again, with Wall Street owning so many houses, you were starting to look at other places. And Ford came out and said, yep, delinquencies are rising across the board. Headwinds, delinquencies, probably a leading indicator. Edmunds, auto loan delinquencies are expected to continue to rise. The risk associated with financing more than what people can afford. June data from Edmunds says that monthly auto payments for June topped $1,000. Meanwhile, Cox Automotive said the average monthly payment, this was a May number. So think about June. If you got a car in June, chances are your payment topped $1,000. Cox says, hey, by the way, in May, the average car payment, this is, new, old, all that, Jason, was over $700 a month. I mean, it's just insanity now. When you think about, hey, I need a car, well, your payment's going to be $1,000 a month. I mean, that used to be a two-bedroom apartment 15 years ago.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, it's like, you get your rent or your mortgage, and then you got an apartment rental fee attached to it for buying a car. That's a lot of money for a car. I mean, I think Jack and I were looking at something. I was looking at something about cars. It was the Gran Torino movie. I was looking at the extras. I watched the Clint Eastwood movie, the Gran Torino, and I was looking at the extras, and it was a 32 Ford or something, is what Clint Eastwood talked about buying his first car. He needed some work to get up and running, and he bought it for $25. He bought the whole car for $25, and now, Joe, you're talking about a payment with interest at $1,000 or more to buy a car. It's crazy. It's going to get worse, I think.
Yeah, and well, what's funny is, according to Google, the search voluntary repossession of car surged to the highest levels going back to the summer of '08. And again, this is real. This is happening. I don't care what they tell you on the TV. And it's going to be very interesting. I'm curious to see if later this week, when the banks announce earnings, if they're starting to add to their loan loss reserves. It's going to be interesting to see, or if they're going to still leave their head in the sand, Jason.
Yeah, we're going to get that inflation number this week, I think, right, Joe? So, man, we'll see where that's at, and I'm fully convinced now with the minutes, what the little paperwork said. They're definitely going after inflation, Joe, and I think what they're trying to do, you tell me if I'm wrong, I think they're trying to stop inflation, but I don't think they want to stop it so fast that they get price destruction. I think that's the game they're trying to play. I think they want the inflation to go a certain ways, and I think they want it to, that soft landing they talk about. I think their soft landing is keeping prices from going down, because if things go bad enough, Joe, then nobody can buy anything. The prices have to go down. I think that's what they're attempting to do. They want inflation, but they don't want it to get out of control, and they don't want to kill the inflation too quickly and have destruction to prices. I think they want these higher prices, Joe, for a permanent, these $1,000 car payments, Joe. I think that's their aim for the future. That's going to be what we have to get used to.
You know what? And it could very well be. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Like I said, this is another unique, yet the same, when you talk about central banks and the manipulation of money. They do it in the gold and silver markets. I mean, it's absolutely asinine that banks, and really two banks in particular, JP Morgan and Citigroup, can own 90% of all of the precious metals derivatives, right? Just by itself, you'd say, hey, that's not risky. Of course that's extremely risky, but the amount of paper derivatives compared to actual physical product, it's an absolute joke. It's insanity, but they need to do that, Jason, to manipulate and say, see, we got a handle on this, right? Because right now, let's face it, gold's $1,740. Well, if it was $3,400 right now, people would be a lot more upset than what they are. They'd be a lot more aware of what's happening, and they try to hide these things. Just like you don't Google voluntary repossession of car if you're not having problems making your car payments, right? You just don't do that. Housing affordability, Goldman Sachs. The worst on record. In other words, your ability to own a home. Think about it in the 250 years or whatever it is that we've been a nation, and never in our nation's history have we been less able to afford to actually purchase a home. And to Jason's point, this is part of it. Listen, they openly admit we want 2% inflation. Okay. Well, think about it. Let's just say you live for, 75 years. Well, that means they want the currency to devalue by 150% during your lifetime, right? And, of course, the realities are that's a fake number. They want a fake 2% inflation number. The actual number's far greater than this, Jason. And now with mortgage rates on the rise, home affordability is going to get even worse. And again, these are signs. right? These are signs. What does this mean 3 months from now, 6 months from now? Let's see, okay, auto loan delinquencies are rising. Google searching for voluntary repossessions, the highest it's been since '08. Then Goldman Sachs comes out and says, hey, listen, housing affordability is the worst it's ever been. Go back to the housing bubble, way worse than that. And Jason, everybody and their mother knows the Fed's going to keep raising rates, which is going to make affordability even worse.
And there is a lot of people out there, Joe, that believe the housing market's going to crash really badly, 30% or 40%. But what if the case is that the Fed is really trying to inflate their way out of their debt mess? Because since 2021, Joe, we've been saying the Fed has no play. They raise the rates and crash the markets, or they put the rates back down to zero at an appointed time, start printing, and then cause much more inflation. It seems to me, Joe, that they want the inflation, but they also want to not have the markets crash to a certain extent. So I really feel like the one thing that hasn't been going up really fast, gold and silver's gone up a little bit, so it hasn't been going up fast. But besides that, the U.S. national debt, really, in comparison to this inflation, Joe, has not really been going up as fast. We're still sitting at that $30.5 trillion of the U.S. national debt. The price of a loaf of bread, for example, might have been $3 during coronavirus. Well, if that's $6, what if it goes to $9 for a loaf of bread by the time this thing cools off and the prices just sort of stabilize? Well, then that makes more sense when you have debt payments, Joe, to the U.S. debt. How many billions of dollars that we pay towards the interest on the debt? It'll make more sense once it becomes more in line with the prices of services and goods across the country. I just see this as, how do we have hyperinflation under our control? Doesn't it almost feel like that's what they're doing, Joe?
Well, yeah, this is, again, it's been a very clear pattern, and I've said it over and over and over and over again. They claim to have all these tools. They really do. But really, when you break down this, they can call it whatever they want. Right? Quantitative easing, right? The Fed window, the repo markets, the repo window, and this window and that window, and interest rates, and all. They call them all what they want. But really, when you look at what are all their tools designed for? Debt. So it's the same tool being used instead of just one way. Right now, the bank's using the same debt tool in about 50 different ways, which just makes everything vulnerable. Because, again, understand what they wanted to do. They wanted to pull all of these purchases forward. Now they're trying to pretend that they want to stop all of these purchases. Jason, what usually ends up happening is people start buckling under the pressure. The income isn't there. They can't. They start struggling to pay bills, right? And everything cuts back. And then all of a sudden, used to be when the debt was a much smaller level, you could survive it, and it could be regional, right? That's just a Northeast problem, or it's just a California problem. Now, what they did with all of these different instruments, now it's a global problem. I mean, you got people protesting in China because they can't get their money out of the banks. We've got supply chain problems that we talk about over and over and over again. Think about the measures that are going on in Europe right now. No hot water, can't turn the lights on. By the way, this winter, can't have the heat on higher than 62 degrees. Last time I checked, 62 degrees is not heat, right? I mean, let's take it here in Arizona, right? You're like, man, hey, I don't know about this 76 degree nonsense, right? You got that air conditioner set at like 68 degrees. Can you imagine the heat at only 62? It's absolute insanity what's happening, Jason. And again, to your point, it just seems like everyone's got to pay a fortune for everything. It doesn't matter, a house, a car. When we got to have those things. Gasoline, your electric bill, right? The power, the taxes, the food,
well,
all of these
Joe,
things.
you got to have them, but do you have to own them? I mean, before 1913, before the Fed showed up, the majority of homes in this country were owned. A mortgage was like a bad thing. People did not, they just saved enough money and then they bought a house. Can you imagine anybody even attempting that? An average person, Joe, just saving the money and then buying a house? It would take them till they were 80, if they were that smart. So you were just talking about $1,000 car payments. Well, we've been saying, well, they're pricing people out of homes. Well, they're pricing people out of cars. What's going to happen is, and I keep talking about the lords and the peasants, Elon Musk will be a lord. He has Tesla. When these driverless cars eventually get on the roads, who do you think is going to be renting out the Teslas? Hey, you don't need to buy a car. You just get on your phone, tap in your little thing, and then for a price, you get to be taken where you want to go at a timely fashion. You don't need to own anything. You'll be happy. That's what's going to happen. You're going to have a car tycoon. You'll have a housing tycoon. You'll have these guys that'll do the work that the bankers don't want to do. The bankers don't want to run car companies, but they also don't want us to own them, Joe, because they can benefit hugely by owning everything and having somebody else do the work for them. And right now, they don't want the average guy doing these sorts of things. They don't want entrepreneurs, Joe. They want guys they can control, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When we get back, we got a great special on an item we haven't run in I don't know how long. Plus, are now natural gas plants exploding? 800-951-0592. And Jason, there was another natural gas plant explosion, this one in Medford, Oklahoma. In this particular facility, it separated the products like ethane and propane and butane and natural gas. This was a major plant that fed petrochemical plants, generating electricity, power plants, burning for cooking, and also blended into vehicle fuel. And it's interesting. This is just since June. The fourth different natural gas explosion in the United States. It started on the 8th of June. Remember, we talked about this one. This was the company in Texas that we were exporting natural gas to Europe, and there was a big explosion. And then a week later, they said, hey, this plant's going to be down for 90 days. That actually lowered natural gas prices here, because it was going to stay in the country. It actually raised natural gas prices, which were already sky high in Europe. That was on the 8th of June. On the 27th of June, there was a refinery, natural gas refinery explosion in Valdez, Alaska. Last week, on the 7th, it was an energy transfer pipeline that exploded in Texas. And then on the 9th, Jason, this plant here in Medford, Oregon, and this one, the first one and this one, major facilities.
Well, I don't know. It kind of makes me think the same thing I was talking about in the last segment, which is, how can you, as the Fed trying to protect themselves, how do you deal with the inflation, or raising the interest rates and crashing the markets? And well, demand and supply and demand. That's how markets work. So if you really don't want a market to crash and burn, one of the things is don't have supply. People will pay higher and higher prices if there just isn't supply. So once again, you have false scarcity, Joe. You create the false scarcity so the prices don't ever actually have to go down. You know what I mean? Because at some point, when people can't afford it and they can't do it, and there's a ton of supply sitting there, the prices will go down. Because these companies will have to compete at some level to get the natural gas into your home. But if you blow them all up, well, Joe, then maybe the supply isn't that great, and so we got to keep those prices kind of at a steadily going up slowly rate. That 2% that the Fed always wants. Oh, they can maybe do that if you blow up a lot of supply, Joe.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know what to make of it, but and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all the food processing plants, and now all of a sudden we know about the whole Russia natural gas Europe pipeline, and now all of these explosions happening. And again, I worry because they're running pretty much at max capacity. This is something where I guess I probably wouldn't be surprised to see more of these.
Yeah, Joe. Because think about it. If you're the average person who's living paycheck to paycheck, and it's the hot season, you need to cool your house. Well, maybe you'll sweat a little more this year and use a little less electricity and let that air conditioning shut off a little more. Hey, I was eating out with my family 2 times a week. Well, maybe we're going to cook 7 days a week, and not go to these fast food places or restaurants. And that's what naturally happens when you can't buy the things you could buy before. So that would cause more supply. So, Joe, what do you do with that supply if you don't want things to go the wrong way for you in your system? Well, let's just blow up the supply. Blow it up. They're never going to get cheaper prices because we won't allow them to have a supply to have lower prices, Joe. It sure seems like they're causing false scarcity all over the planet.
Yeah, false scarcity. That's the thing. But when did we get all of these problems? But like I said, this was by design. This was put into place. This is 15 years worth of false scarcity in the energy markets. And again, just signs. What does this mean 3 months from now, 6 months from now? This just breaking, CNBC saying Americans are canceling deals to buy homes at the fastest rate. Really going back, if you throw out the March 2020 numbers, the fastest rate going back to the housing debacle. Now they're saying cancellations have increased to 15% of all home transactions are now being canceled, Jason.
Yeah, see, all right, you would think that the housing prices would start going down. I guess it's going to take a little time.
Hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. And here's the thing. The thing about housing that's interesting is because of the 2008 crash, the housing market crash, the supply of homes never really totally caught up. So different from the stock markets and commodities markets and everything else, the housing market just stopped dead. And the reason the housing prices came back and housing prices went up is because the builders couldn't essentially seem to get back up to the levels they were supposed to be at. Because no matter how many markets crashed, there were still people needing houses. And so, Joe, it's going to be tough to see exactly where the housing market goes. But once again, it just depends on how much the inflation goes and how they're going to deal with it. I think they're going to keep raising rates, Joe. I think they're going to keep raising them and keep raising them and keep raising them. People aren't going to believe it. They're going to 10% mortgages, 10% interest rate on your mortgages, 12% interest rate on your mortgages. I think they may push it that hard, Joe.
Well, it's going much higher than where it is. That's the one thing I think we're all going to agree on because, again, the amount of scarcity means that the demand destruction has to be that much greater, right? And I've been trying, and maybe today is the finally the best way I could put it so people could understand. This is why Jason and I were talking about this double depression, because it's going to be demand destruction, right? Which is always a signal of a depression. But it's going to have to be so severe of a destruction before prices will actually go down. That's the biggest problem. I mean, right now, think about just when we talk auto loan delinquencies rising, people canceling their home purchases, and already, people are driving less, they're going out less, right? They're turning up the thermostat a few degrees here and there. A lot of times that would be, I think we're going to find out here in another 2 weeks that we're probably already technically going to meet the definition of recession, but yet prices have still been going up. And that's really the biggest problem. When we get back, I got an item where the price isn't up, at least for a day. You're going to want to do it. It's an item we haven't run in a really long time. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. And, we talked about scarcity, and this is the same thing in it really, I don't know that there's anywhere where scarcity hasn't touched. Right? I mean, you look at here in the gold and silver market, scarcity is so bad. Right? We've got these sky-high premiums. Like silver premiums have never even come close to being this high. Even in the energy sector, which we were talking about, we've got these crack spreads, which is how much above the oil and natural gas prices are we really having to pay. They're at all-time record highs. Cars. Did you ever thought there'd be a time, Jason, where you'd pay over sticker, thousands of dollars over sticker, just to get a car? Right? But this is what scarcity does. In the gold markets, when you talk about especially the old gold, the Liberties, the Saints, the Indians, and of course, as all of you know, old gold is what we recommend. It's the most private, period. Hands down. You can buy it, sell it, trade it without having to give out your information, without having to give out your Social Security number, without having to get 1099. And by the way, it's the only gold the government doesn't consider to be bullion. It's the only one. Right? You go IRAs. We do a lot of precious metals IRAs. Right? You can put gold eagles in there, buffaloes, Kruger ants, maple leafs, bars. I mean, you can put just about anything in there. You know what you can't put in there? Pre-1933 U.S. gold, and there's a reason for that, because if they come for the gold, right, that's the one gold. Remember, back to 33, the only gold you could keep in 1933 was gold the government deemed to be collectibles. And Jason, the cream of the crop of that has to be the Indians.
Yeah, those were a very popular coin, Joe. When 1907 was it? Theodore Roosevelt wrote to Congress that he didn't like the way the coins looked. The American coins, they had liberty on one side and the eagle on the other side. They were bland and boring. And I'll tell you right now, Theodore Roosevelt was wrong. We should have kept the coins the same. Should have had liberty on one side and an eagle on the other side. But he wrote to Congress and said that our coins were of an atrocious hideousness, and was wanting a change. And he used St. Gaudens as an artist that could maybe make better coins for us, which gave us the St. Gaudens. But then that's the same year that, hey, the gold Indian coins came out, Joe, and new designs to make the coins look a little sharper.
Yeah, they were the fractional coin to the Saints. So there are no fractional St. Gaudens, right? There's only the Indians that went along with the Saints. And the $10 Indian, okay, that's got the Lady Liberty, and she's got a full Indian headdress on, right? So the tail force. I would have to say, Jason, that this would be a very racist coin today, right? How dare you have Lady Liberty, a white woman wearing an Indian headdress? But yet here it is. And this started, like Jason said, in 1907, really started in 08. They made very, very few in 1907. They made about 240,000 of them. But then they only went, obviously, till gold confiscation, but they actually stopped making the Indians after 1916 because they thought it carried the plague. Kind of funny. Then the $10 Indian didn't get minted again. It got minted. A few coins got minted in 1920, and then a few more in 26, and then, of course, 1930 and 1932. That was it. So the Indians were minted for a lot fewer years, and they made a lot less of them, which has made them harder to get, right, more collectible, if you will. They always have a higher premium. Right now, a $10 Indian, it was $1,265, and that's like $100 less than where it was 6 weeks ago. But we got about 75 of them. This special is huge. $50 off. So it's down to $1,215. That's the closest it's been to a $10 lib in years, Jason.
Yeah, Joe and I were talking on the phone this morning, and it popped up on our screen that this was available. So Joe jumped on it real quick and got us the price for you guys to buy these. I mean, 75 coins is not a lot. You get one of our bigger buyers out there, they come in, they can end up swooping in buying most of them, if not all of them. So if you're wanting one of these coins and you're wanting to get a half ounce of gold, old gold in your possession in this way, I would call 800-951-0592. Get on the phone, get these coins ordered quickly, because this is limited, Joe.
And if you're a new customer, you've been listening for a while, you haven't ordered before, and I get it, you can be nervous and think they're going to, scam you or bait and switch you. None of that happens here. Just do this. Just call up, call the 800 number, and just tell the girls I want the special. That's all you need to say. Ready? We're going to ask you a couple hard questions. First one's going to be, ready for this? How many would you like? That's it. How many would you like? You can just tell them, I want 1, I want 5, I want 10, whatever it is. And then, of course, we're going to need some information, like a name. If you're going to have it shipped to you, obviously we're going to need your address. If you're picking up in our Arizona or Colorado office, hey, we just need a phone number. That's all we need. And by the way, all that phone number is for, we're going to call you when your product's ready for you to pick up. We're not a coin store. We do everything by appointment only. That way your privacy is ensured. And it's just that simple. What happens after that? After you get your gold? Absolutely nothing. That's right. We don't call our customers. We don't make outbound calls. 800-951-0592. The first time this year, probably the first time in a couple of years, $10 Indians, $50 off, $1,215. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Gold's down $3 here, $17.38. Silver pretty flat, but down about 5 cents here, $19.10. The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, they're all lower today as well. But the sale here, this is an item, I don't know. We'll probably go another year or two before you can get these in any quantity. You can get the higher grades, but they just, the price really gets going here. But we had 75 of these $10 Indians. This was the fractional coin to go along with the St. Gaudens. And yep, Augustus St. Gaudens, he designed the Saint and the $10 Indian. Then an artist, Bella Pratt, designed the other Indians. But it's something else that's unique to St. Gaudens. The edges of this Indian. They had raised stars, one for every state of the union, instead of the old reeds. Normally you see the coins, even today, right? They've got the reeded edges. Well, this one has the raised stars of the United States as the way of making sure your coins weren't counterfeited or clipped, Jason.
Yeah, there's lots of cool things you get to learn about your coins. But one thing about gold coins and why you buy them is we talked a bunch about scarcity, false scarcity. Gold is actual scarcity. It's called a precious metal for a reason. There's only so much of it per human being walking around the earth, and it can't just be made out of thin air. It can't be printed by growing trees and making it out of paper. It's gold, Joe. It's gold, and this is a great way to buy it. It really, there's lots of ways to buy gold. There's lots of ways to buy silver. There's lots of ways to buy these things, and you guys go out there and find cool ways to buy silver and gold, go for it. But when it comes to buying and selling with a dealer you can trust, that's Patriot Trading Group, and get something that's actually scarce, right, Joe? Get it put away so that you can protect your nest egg, your savings.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, $1,215. I haven't seen it that low in a very, very long time. 800-951-0592, the $10 Indian, and really when you think about all the years it was made, which wasn't very many, a lot of those dates, Jason, you're not getting. right? You're not getting the 1920 coin. You're not getting the 1930 coin. I mean, really, in realities, there's probably less than 10 years of dates total for Indians that are actually out there. The other ones is those real dates. You're talking, you're not paying $1,200. You'd be paying $12,000, $50,000, $100,000 or more on some of these dates where they hardly made any coins.
You know, what's funny is Jack, who since he was a kid has been saving his money. Him and I had an agreement we put together that he saves 50% of all his odd jobs as he was a kid. And then when he had a taxable job like here at the radio station, you know, it's just as long as I'm paying for your food and a room, 25%. You just keep putting savings away, and I'll put it in gold and silver. Well, I sold what Legos I had from a kid and the Legos he had as a kid. Some years ago, he sold all his plastic basically, and he ended up buying a $10 Indian. That's the first gold that Jack ever got, because we had a lot of Legos. And I was like, let's just sell it to somebody who likes these things. He wasn't using his Legos anymore, and he got himself a $10 Indian, John. I think back then it was like $600 or $700, so a pretty good buy.
Yeah, absolutely. 800-951-0592. By the way, if you're one of those internet people, you don't like to use your phone, I've got them on sale online as well.